And welcome back to day number 2, everybody. This is our Train the Trainer conference for folks working with women, beginning women farmers and ranchers, and we've got a really exciting lineup today. Just a quick recap for those of you who may not have been able to join us yesterday. The materials, each of the sessions is being recorded. Those will all be available on the website, along with all of the supplemental resources and links to sites that we have, and the presentations as well. So you should have more than enough information if you had to miss the day to sort of recapture it. And it was a good day. And I will just say, one of the things that I advised folks yesterday, since this is a Train the Trainer event, is that we're sharing sort of tips about being successful in our jobs and working better and more effectively with beginning farmers and ranchers. One of the things that I encouraged everybody to do yesterday at the start of the conference was to really start an action plan and to start identifying some take-homes that, it doesn't, you certainly don't have to have a lot. You could have 1 or 2 or even 3 maybe from the entire conference, or you might have 3 from every day. But just keep in mind that, and for those of us that are sort of have been in positions longer, it might not be that it's brand new material, but it might mean something that a mentor of mine years ago used to call reshuffling the deck, and that we all get into habits and patterns of behavior that sometimes don't always serve us to in terms of professional growth. And so it's helpful to go to these kinds of things and to sort of reshuffle the deck as you go. So my takeaways from yesterday, I'm a journaler. I will show you my journal right here. I know you can't see it, but I did jot down yesterday what my takeaways were, and I will share them with you, and then maybe you can share yours in the chat box. I see Kelly already did. One of mine came from the keynote, and it was a reminder of the power of amplification and the fact that as women, working often as the minority group in policy discussions and in the world that we work in, it's important for us to have one another's back. And the one way that we can do that is by continuing to amplify and resend messages that our sisters are trying to get heard that are sometimes falling by the wayside. So amplification was a big one for me yesterday. Another one was a reminder to kick up my yoga practice, because balance and flexibility are so key to women, particularly women as they are aging. And I have been practicing yoga for a couple of years, but I've been letting it slide for the last 6 months or so. So I'm going to step that up again. My third takeaway from yesterday was follow-up evaluations. And I admitted yesterday that I am a lazy evaluator, and I would choose not to do it at all if I could get away with that. But I was convinced after listening to the presentation yesterday that there is huge value in follow-up evaluations, and so I'm going to be taking a look at that and seeing if I can't find some energy and some time to go back in and revisit with some women that I've had in various classes and see how things are working out for them. So those are my 3 takeaways. Again, I would love to see what your takeaways were. Those of you that were here yesterday, those of you that did not join us, you missed a great day, but again, it's all recorded and the materials will be available to you in the website as soon as we can get them up, which hopefully won't be too much longer. We're working on that right now. Let's see, what is next? Oh, let me see if I can get back to my screen. I'm just going to take 1 second here. And just quickly, again, for folks who were not with us yesterday, I just want to quickly go over sort of the goals and objectives for our time together this week. We are looking at current issues in serving beginning farm and ranch women and how they affect us as educators, technical assistance providers, support people. We're trying to share some very practical, innovative programming that's taking place, including the tools that help make it work and the things that you can take away and bring with you. We want to share curricula program ideas that have been tested with this audience and that we know have worked for us and offer them to you. Certainly, you may do any modifications, adjustments you need to do to accommodate the audience needs that you work with, but we really want to stop reinventing every wheel over and over again and living in silos. We want to build your program evaluation skills. We're doing two separate sessions on evaluation because it really is important. And part of the reason that it's important is because we are missing a huge amount of data around what the needs of beginning farm and ranch women are. And if we are going to go forward and we're going to be successful in securing funds and doing the kind of research that we want to do and getting graduate students excited about this, we've got to be able to tap into a body of literature that exists. And so to the extent that we can all do a little bit better in sharing our stories, it will be greatly beneficial to those that are coming behind us. And then the last thing I invited everybody to do yesterday is really grow your learning community. Be part of our learning community. We love having new people. We will include information in the website about how to get involved if you're not already. We will be doing more webinars as we go about specific tools and opportunities and things. We will be sharing information through our listservs, and the best way to do that is to just join the team. But by all means, if we're not your cup of tea, find somebody who is. Find somebody that, 2 or 3 people that you can bounce ideas off of, that you can work with, that you can share programs with, because there's so much that needs to be done, and it exceeds the capacity of any one of us. So I hope you're ready for an exciting day today. We are going to start with an opening keynote by Kelsey Ducheneaux, and then we are going to go into a sort of a roundtable discussion with Beth Holzman on meeting the needs of underserved audiences. Patty Niner from Pennsylvania is going to be talking to us a little bit about building leadership skills and what that means and some of what she's learned along the way. And then we're going to be doing sort of a bi-coastal piece on 21st century education and programs that are using technology in innovative ways or targeting audiences in innovative ways. And so hopefully you'll all be able to stick around and be part of all of those conversations. Other than that, you're welcome to use the chat box at any point in time. There will always be somebody in there monitoring that. We would ask you all have access to your cameras and microphones, but we would ask that you keep them muted during the presentations because it does cut down a little bit on the background noise and distraction, and it helps to keep the presentations a little bit crisper and more clear. And then we will always be keeping an eye out for questions as we go, and we'll get to those as quickly as we can in the program. And we also have a couple of things that are coming up that came up yesterday that we ran out of time to fully dive into, and I really want to do that because some of them were really interesting. So I'm thinking about setting up some ways to use the chat feature in the website, the listserv feature. So I just have to double check with a couple of people that they're able to get in there and use that, and it will be fun to dig more deeply into some of those things and to share resources as well. So that said, I think we're about ready to go. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to get ready to introduce our opening speaker. Sorry, Kelsey, I didn't even think to ask your permission to share this picture, but I was so impressed when my colleague Beth Holzman forwarded this to me, and those of you that read the New York Times may have already seen this, but earlier this month in the business section, there was a really good piece in the New York Times business section about women ranchers, and our very own Kelsey Ducheneaux was featured there. So that's who we have going today, and I will introduce her by saying that Kelsey is a fourth-generation rancher on her family's ranch located on the Cheyenne River Sioux Reservation in South Dakota. She currently serves as a Natural Resources Director and Youth Program Coordinator for the Intertribal Ag Council. She's also kept busy working on a family's nonprofit organization, which I think she's going to talk a little bit about, but their mission is to build confident tribal youth who are able to go into the world and make a difference for themselves and for others. So with that, Kelsey, go ahead and share your screen.
All right, it's saying I cannot share my screen while another is sharing.
Oh, hang on just a minute.
Good morning, everybody. All right, let's give it a whirl here, see if I can figure this out. Bring my shared window to the front, it's saying. Didn't do this when we did our walkthrough this morning. There we go. Can you guys see it? Perfect. All right, well, good morning, everybody. As was mentioned earlier, my name is Kelsey Ducheneaux. I am fortunate in being able to serve as the Intertribal Agriculture Council's current Youth Programs Coordinator and their Natural Resources Director. Here is a picture of me with some of my cattle in the background, my grandparents' home right behind my house, and really a place that was offered to me, a paradise where I could live and learn and grow and come into being the person that I am as a young woman in agriculture. But I'm really fortunate in that home behind me, having grounded the need to commit my career to public servancy and to helping others also explore what it is that they're passionate about. So I was first exposed to the IAC's, the Intertribal Agriculture Council. I'll refer to that as the IAC quite a bit throughout this conversation. To their programming as a high school student. After several years of working with them and kind of volunteer coordinating their annual membership meeting to have some level of youth involvement, I convinced them and another organization to develop a joint position where I could work on expanding youth programming that would support Native youth's exposure to intertribal ag, intertribal foods, and the food systems that they experience in their community. I currently am serving as the outgoing youth programs coordinator. So since 2015, I've been in this role, and we're actually getting ready for some really exciting growth to expand our youth programming and hire 2 new individuals from our youth leadership pipeline to take on some of those responsibilities so that I can focus a little more on natural resources and working with our tribal producers. So today, I hope that we have a chance to offer an overview of the IAC's programming and what helps our programming be successful. I also hope to share some of my secrets in coordinating our work to really assist you in collaborating effectively with underserved communities. And I also hope to answer any questions. I learned early on in my career that a discussion is so much better than a speech. Now with this virtual platform, a discussion is a little bit harder to carry out, but I just want to make sure that right up front, everybody that's joining us recognizes my willingness and excitement to carry on further conversation beyond this day. At the end, I'll have a slide with all of my contact information. Please feel free to absolutely reach out. All right, let's go to the next slide. Perfect. All right, so the Intertribal Ag Council was established in 1987 to provide a unified effort to promote change in Indian agriculture for the benefit of Indian people. What I'm really going to focus on is talking about our youth programming and how youth programming plays a role in collaborating with the underserved communities of tribal nations across the country. What you'll notice as we go through these pictures, though, is there are a lot of young ladies in the pictures. And, you know, I really think that similarly to what we're seeing across the industry, is that's a trend. We have a lot of young women that are coming into these roles of food and agriculture. And so while I'm talking inclusively about our youth programming, recognize how many young women are taking this leadership opportunity to explore the world of Indian ag and Indian food, and recognize that a lot of what I'm talking about applies directly to working with women in agriculture. So the Intertribal Ag Council has had a higher education scholarship since our inception in the late 80s. After finally gaining access to additional funding in the 21st century, we're really able to open our doors to our national symposium with having youth available at our annual membership meeting at a much larger scale. In 2018, we had our largest event yet. The Intertribal Ag Council scholarshiped 112 youth and 76 adults to participate at the 32nd Annual Symposium. We really take a lot of pride in our symposium serving as the largest annual gathering of Native American producers in the nation. We believe very strongly in our youth leadership pipeline, is what we've kind of decided to call it. But we feel as though the quicker we can pass on some of the responsibilities and the roles that we play in Indian ag and food onto these young individuals that are excited, engaged, and passionate, the quicker we're going to start to see further growth and even more accelerated transition to sustainable practices. So the formalization of our youth programming really took shape in 2017, when after a couple of years of some of our youth deciding that, you know, the Intertribal Ag Council has a national board of directors, we need a youth board of directors specific to the youth programming. That was an idea that was presented in 2015 by two young ladies from the Cheyenne River Sioux Indian Reservation. And the IEC Board of Directors really took that suggestion and, you know, embraced it. They didn't feel like they were trying to get overthrown. They actually explored the idea of what would it mean to give a voice to our youth, okay? And so in 2017, we welcomed our inaugural Youth Board of Directors, and they really help to shape what it is our youth programming looks like. And they kind of help to serve as a mentor to me, really, peer-to-peer, just in sharing how the programming that I'm working on may be implemented in their communities or may not very effectively transition to their communities. We want to make sure that the programming we're developing works on a national basis. And there we've got a picture of the inaugural board of Youth Board of Directors. So they are all about self-identified leadership. They have committees that, you know, I think a lot of the long-standing board of directors could really benefit from, such as the recruitment committee, public relations committee. They have partnership liaisons. So they recognize that the mission that they are working on cannot be done alone. And so they've identified people on their team to very specifically work strictly on partnerships. Very innovative, creative idea. They are the absolute experts in online data and information sharing. They hold monthly meetings that are held via Google Hangouts. It's a free tool. If you haven't used it yet, check it out. Google has a whole cool suite of tools. And they realize that their resources need to be readily shared. So they use Google Docs. These very busy college and young employees are able to ensure progress each month as they work through all of the confusion and chaos that exists in working virtually, right? Kind of just the age that we're in anymore. So here they are, hard at it, working, collaborating, coming together once a year. This was actually in December at our national youth gathering, and I'm really excited to see what we're able to get pulled together in 2019 based on the plan and the mission and the vision that they really kind of strategically pulled together during their time together. But I have this picture in here to really highlight how important it is to offer professional development opportunities to individuals from underserved communities. You guys can probably all think to what your level of community involvement is. Maybe you serve on the Chamber of Commerce, or maybe you volunteer for a local organization. In underserved communities, really rural communities, I'm sure that you guys are realizing that there isn't this sort of community involvement opportunity that's created or that is existing. So as we develop our programming, we need to make sure that we allow room for those opportunities to kind of be fostered in the community so that youth especially have a chance to step into those roles and understand what it's like to have that collaborative teamwork, to have that responsibility, to have somebody that's depending on you to carry your share in the project. All right, so we have several ways that we deliver programming with our youth. We have what we call regional youth leadership events, national youth leadership events, as well as local programming. So what I have here are some pictures of our regional youth leadership summits. These are 3 to 4 day events that pull together youth at a regional level to discuss agriculture as it exists really in their local area. So we work on enhancing youth networks, encouraging tribal involvement, and ensuring accountability of allies in the development of these regional events. We have started these events in 2016, and we've since had 16 successful regional youth events, all from Florida to Michigan to Hawaii. We, in 2019, are planning to host 12 events, one in each of the BIA regions across the country. And we will be breaking ground in Alaska for our first time. So I'm very excited to be able to expand our programming and really just offer support in whatever way the NIFSA board, the youth board member feels is most needed as being a community member, a youth member from that region. So our national events are designed to really connect Indian country, right? So we build networks that go across the country and we foster those friendships. And what that's going to turn into as these youth transition from high school students to college students to young professionals is it's going to be an intertribal collaborative network that we have never seen before. I mean, just think about if all of our congressmen and women had known each other since they were high school students. Think of how maybe more successful or innovative that relationship would be. I'm really excited to see these lifelong friendships start to foster national partnerships and intertribal businesses, especially in the realm of Indian agriculture. Here are some pictures that highlight, in each of these pictures, there are not 2 youth from the same state. And I think that's really, really cool. They're offered a very unique opportunity to really meet people from all over the country. And it's easy now with the virtual connections that we're offered to remain engaged and to foster that relationship. Our programming is designed to reconnect our foodways. So I'm sure that everybody has recognized in working with underserved communities that they have a very unique food system, or they had a very unique food system at one point that they maybe no longer have access to, or it's become broken, or they're just unaware of it, right? So we hope to equip youth with the skills and knowledge of what their foodways originally were as an Indigenous community, and then help them to really embrace the idea of how important it is to feed our communities. And when working with underserved communities, we have to recognize that the word agriculture doesn't necessarily always resonate to food, right? Agriculture can a lot of times be this big picture, mythical existence of cows, plows, and sows somewhere on the horizon, right? Well, when we're working with underserved communities, we often find that the cows, plows, and sows might not be right there present in plain day for them to recognize. So we have to kind of change some of our lingo sometimes and help them understand that agriculture is the food on your plate when you go have your lunch at the cafeteria, right? Agriculture is the grass that you're walking across, that you're going to have to mow when you get done with school, okay? So we start taking this big picture and parceling it out into terms that youth are able to really connect with, and it resonates with where they are at and what their home is. So we're seeing this overwhelming success with our Native youth really reconnecting to the idea of regenerative agriculture and sustainable food systems because of their mindset is really geared towards knowing a hope for change and for improvement and for fostering some really unique regenerative practices for agriculture. The youth that we get to interact with are some of the most aware individuals when it comes to their carbon footprint. They have a water bottle everywhere they go, they're reducing their waste, they're not using straws. And if we can connect those everyday tendencies to the efforts that we are doing large scale with Indian agriculture, we're going to be able to help them recognize that this is a really, really great opportunity for them to jump in and make a national impact. So here are just some pictures of ways that we're exposing youth to agriculture in the setting of a hoop house, of a greenhouse. We're talking about feeding the community. We are connecting them with indigenous chefs from across the world. We're putting them in the apron, right? And they're able to envision themselves fulfilling these direly needed roles within their communities. We're talking to them about marketing, about seed saving. We're giving them a chance to network. We also hope that they walk away with an understanding of their role as the next generation of land stewards. We want them to talk about agricultural production and food and eating it and serving it, but we also want them to remember the importance of sustainability and regenerative agriculture. So here we've got some youth that are utilizing some really innovative approaches to gardening, connecting with individuals that are working on environmental quality, learning about how many different types of tomatoes there are and how some of them are more designed to withstand certain environments, learning about fish hatcheries, right? We're just exposing them to all the ways, the breadth really of agriculture and what that means to their community. A couple more pictures here. We're talking about indigenous foods. We're getting back out and we're foraging for the plants that a lot of our communities used to thrive on. We're understanding that the dandelions are not just a weed that we should spray in our garden, right? They're food, they are medicine. We can find so many more uses for all of the plants that exist in our landscape if we just start to embrace more of these traditional indigenous foods that unfortunately we've really lost a lot of connection to. So we're getting youth back out there on the landscape, right? We also hope, we really want to highlight the importance of embracing cultural diversity, right? When you talk about tribal nations, it's nations with an S. It's not just the tribal nation. There are more than 570 federally recognized tribes, with another 240 plus that are still pursuing federal recognition. And there are even more state recognized tribes. And the reality is there's a lot of tribes that, either no longer exist or some level of government fails to authorize them with any level of state or government authorization. So we need to realize the importance when we're speaking about one tribe and the next. They are two totally different cultures. They have different stories, they have different traditions, and they have different paths to healing the communities that still exist within those settings. Here are some really cool pictures of ways that we've highlighted the diversity that exists within all of our cultures. And as we showcase this diversity and we offer a platform for youth to share their stories on a safe, inviting platform, we witness really a growth that can't be created elsewhere. Youth are able to relate to one another. They share similar experiences. They've felt the same emotions before, and they realize that while they're from a different tribe, they have been exposed to similar feelings and similar situations, and it kind of brings a level of comfort and confidence to their ability to withstand what's coming at the next step is in their life. Our effort really is designed to create the next generation of national policy advocates. We want to make sure our youth are competent enough to understand the disparities in their local communities and confident enough to take those disparities to the Hill, to the White House, and to advocate for change in policy that will help their communities at home. In addition to our national events, we've kind of been able to develop a hub for providing youth to other organizations such as NCAI, National Congress of American Indian, the U.S. Cattlemen's Association, providing them with young, motivated individuals that are compassionate about what it is that these different organizations are doing, and have the energy and the excitement and the ability to go out and help advocate for the missions of these different organizations. All right, so now we're to the part where I would like to visit a little bit about, youth as catalysts for change, and what are some of the tricks to the trade in connecting with these youth or underserved members of underserved communities, and getting them excited about doing some of the work that we're doing, right? Showing them that they have the ability to even do some of that work.
Kelsey, before you
Yeah.
move on, do you want to take a couple questions about the first part, or do you want to just wait till at the end?
I can definitely take questions. I'm not seeing any questions on my page, though. I don't know what's wrong.
So, well, I've got a few here for
Okay,
you.
perfect.
Well, so first of all, one comment, which was loving the pictures of Hawaii. Cultural awareness is very important when designing programs here, and I think that's a really good takeaway for all of us to remember, is that everything we know and do is filtered through our cultural perspectives, and so hopefully everybody's aware of that. But then I've got two questions. One is, how do you recruit youth? And the second is, how do you find a large percentage already have some type of agricultural background?
Great questions. And I'm sorry that I didn't cover those already. So recruitment really is, social media is a tool, a great tool, but recruitment comes best when it's peer-to-peer. We try to make sure that our events are engaging enough to want the youth to go home and talk to their friends about how much fun they had, and they bring a friend with them next time, right? And then a large percentage, do they have exposure to agriculture prior to this event? Not really. To be completely honest, a lot of the youth that we're pulling in, there's a handful of them that have either grown up on a farm or ranch, or they've done some sort of farming or ranching activity. Maybe they have a garden at home. But the fold that we bring them into is a world where you talk more about food sovereignty, about sustainable food systems, and they don't have a whole lot of exposure to those concepts or those ideas prior to being involved. We also serve a large demographic of youth coming from very urban populations, and in those settings, they really don't have a whole lot of exposure at all to agriculture or food systems prior to the gathering.
Right, and then the last question is, in all of those pictures, it seems like there's quite a few young women, as you told us at the beginning that there were. So, do you do special outreach to women, or are women just more interested in topics like leadership and activism, or?
I think really we don't do any special level of outreach specifically to our Native youth, our Native females. They come, they really do flock to the opportunity, and I feel as though maybe in a lot of areas across the country, it is indicative of the cultures that exist a lot. I mean, my tribe, for example, we're a matriarchal society. And so it really is, a lot of times the female is viewed as the woman of the household, and a lot of the guidance and the leadership comes from the females within the community. And it might not be out front leadership serving as the tribal chairwoman, but what it might be is just having that, high level ranking of mentorship known within the community. You're somebody that has sought for your wisdom or for your guidance and support, and just really at the heart of every family where I'm from, there's kind of this female presence that kind of pulls everybody together and keeps everybody moving forward. So we have been seeing kind of a general trend for more females to be involved. That was one thing as we were doing the introduction this morning. I was wishing I would have done some statistics to see how many more females we have than young men. But what we are finding is it really does come down to the recruitment and who is going to be more willing to reach out to their friends and bring their friend along next time. And I think that might be where we're also seeing a large influx in young ladies that are participating in our events.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll have more at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And just while I've got you, Mary, what time do you want me to cut this off? What is my cutoff?
You've still got 10 minutes or so.
Okay, perfect. All right. So some of the reasons, tricks to the trade, I've been calling them, reasons why we're seeing success in connecting with our youth in underserved communities. The first, we are 100% peer led, right? We want to get youth engaged. We want the best advice that I can give, respectfully recognize if there is an age barrier and find a youth either to co-teach alongside of you or give them the dang reins of the outfit and step back and just watch them flourish with that opportunity to do the leadership, right? As we start to age, we tap into this really in-depth wisdom, right? Expertise that we start to refine as we get further and further into our career. Figure out how you can share that with a young individual and support that young individual in conveying that expertise to their peers, to their fellow youth. And you're really, really going to see a lot more uptake on the material. You're going to see young individuals that are wanting to learn more. They want to know the next step. They want to know how they can be that person in the front of the room giving the presentation, because it's something that one of their own is doing, and it makes it fun, it makes it hip, it makes it cool, it makes it realistic. Between even me being 25 years old and the youth in a lot of our programming being 18 and under, that's 6, 7, 8, sometimes 9 or 10 years of age difference. How can they, as a young individual that's so new to these ideas, envision themselves in my role, right? If I can tap into a young high school senior to help talk with them about agricultural business, they're going to be able to see themselves in 2 or 3 years as a high school senior talking about agricultural business, and it's going to help them to really expand their horizons and where they see themselves stepping into that role of youth leadership. Keep pushing the wrong button to hit the next slide. All right. So we also have with that the shared opportunity to take on responsibility, right? As we give youth a chance to step into these leadership roles, to give presentations, to advocate for our organization, to set up a booth at a job fair, they see that responsibility not as a chore, but as an honor. They recognize that as having achieved a new level of responsibility, rather than being bestowed another job duty. So youth are sought for their expertise and knowledge in our programming. They're recognized as young leaders, and as a result, that elevated level of responsibility they experience is really perceived by them as an honor, and they recognize the translucency in our programming as a privilege. They want to know what's going on with our board of directors. They want to know what our technical assistance network is doing. They are excited to be involved in whatever capacity is available, rather than feeling as though it's another thing that they have to get done because it was delegated to them. So then we also have optimism only is one of my rules when it comes to our youth programming. Now, optimism is a lifestyle, and I personally feel it is essential. It starts with how we talk about opportunities or things or items, and in just a few weeks of being deliberate about making a shift towards a more optimistic view of the world, you can find your entire perspective will change. So some examples, right? Examples are what I work really well with. So incentives versus punishments, okay? If you are interacting with a group of individuals and you have a short time with them, being the person that comes in with a new set of rules and practices discipline is not going to be effective. And a lot of times what that creates is the individual in the room that the youth that you're trying to get to listen or get off of their phone or whatever it is, when you try to offer that discipline, it just causes them to shut down. They are called out on something that they didn't want to be called out on, and as a result, you kind of put them in the spotlight, they're just going to shut down. Instead, what you could do is focus on incentivizing the appropriate behavior that you see, because we have positive reinforcement will work so much quicker in kind of triggering that environment and that setting that you're wanting when you're working with youth. And it's constant reinforcement, right? So making statements like, what a wonderful question. Thank you so much for asking that question. It doesn't matter what the question was. It doesn't matter if they asked to go to the restroom. What they have offered you is an opportunity to share with them your appreciation for them. So don't ever pass that up, okay? When someone attempts to answer a question, never tell them they're wrong, okay? Usually what I try to say is, I can see where you thought that might be the answer, but what I was looking for was a little bit different. Do you have any other guesses, or is there anything else that you think might be the right answer? Don't just say, nope, that's not right, because you're training them not to offer you another guess, okay? And then also appreciate all the stories that are shared, that they decide to share with you. I'm not saying you should support them in telling tall tales or falsified information, but it is important that you make sure they understand how much you appreciate them sharing with you stories from their life or from their perception of reality, right? So a lot of times they'll say, I've never heard of that before. Thank you so much for sharing. What I always thought was this, and I present them my perspective, and rather than trying to say, no, you're wrong, that's not the reality, you empathize with the fact that for them it might be their reality, and until you offer them another perspective, you can't hold that against them for it existing as their reality. All right, get excited, okay? I have seen pineapples grow before, but these individuals had not, these young ladies. You'll notice it's another picture with a lot of young ladies, right? They were so enamored with this pineapple that was growing and what this pineapple plant looked like. And they thought pineapples grew from trees. Most people do until they see one growing. But it would not have been near the setting it was if I would have been like, I can't believe you guys didn't know pineapples grew from the ground and looked like this. No, instead, I got down, I felt the plant with them, I laughed about it, I enjoyed how unique this opportunity was for them, and I reacted as though it was my first time ever seeing that pineapple grow as well, right? You got to get down, you got to get excited, and you share their emotions, and it helps to amplify the experience for them rather than mellowing it out because you're not as excited about what's going on as they are. All right, so we need to take a look at this picture. And a lot of people, like my age and older, they would look at this picture and they would see all of these handheld devices and they would be like, look at them on their phones, right? No, we have to realize that we are not ever going to be bigger than technology as an individual presenter. And technology is way smarter, it's way cooler, it's way sexier, it's more engaging. It has a better way of telling a story than we do as an individual human, right? So we got to embrace that technology in the classroom. And the reality is, if we work with technology, we're all going to be in a better boat. These youth, I'm going to bet, were probably taking a picture that they were going to post on Snapchat or on Instagram, where all of their friends at home were going to see how much fun they were having learning about native plants, right? So why wouldn't I want to use that as a recruitment tool? Why wouldn't I want our youth sharing their story, Snapchatting their experiences, taking pictures of what's going on in the classroom so that they can share with their friends and family back home? A lot of times I try to make a game out of it. And this is where you can really make technology work for you, right? Create a hashtag that you want to, you'll have a prize to the winner who uses the hashtag the most over the next 3 days, okay? So then not only are they sharing the content of what's going on in front of them, but they're helping you to brand it and attach it back to what's going on with your organization. It's basically free PR, it's a recruitment opportunity, and it's helping you to tell your story from another person's perspective as well. All right, we have to recognize in working with underserved communities that complexities do exist, okay? If we refuse to focus on problems and we keep our minds open to the limitless opportunities, we will see a general trend to a more prosperous future. That's what we're focused on. But we also have to recognize that in pursuing these opportunities, we will often find really complex situations and networks that we have to learn how to navigate. That can't scare us off. That has to motivate us to work harder, to network better, to understand and empathize with the organizational structures that are in place, and figure out how to get everybody rowing the same direction so the boat can actually move somewhere. And we have to accept human nature, all right? So it's a little bit easier for you all listening to probably say that you're sitting alone or you're sitting by somebody that you didn't know before you showed up to this event, right? But 9 times out of 10, when you are at a conference in person, you normally tend to sit next to somebody that you've met before, or a friend, or maybe even somebody that you traveled there with, right? It's human nature. We're kind of a herding animal. We like to be with people that we know. It's a natural tendency. And one of my biggest pet peeves is when there's like this forced mixing of the crowd, because it's not natural, and it oftentimes is something that you just grin and bear. You just grin and then you bear it, you get through it, but it's not necessarily something that always creates that next level of connection and communication that is trying to be incentivized, right? So what we do when we work with our youth is we accept that they're going to have friends when they arrive, and rather than trying to split up their friends and split them up from their friends and force them to meet somebody else, let them embrace that friendship and figure out how you can create this, right? We want to allow that friendship to build. And, you know, if you start off by allowing 2 young individuals that are really good friends to work together, you could go up to them and say, hey, I see that you guys are really getting along and you're really having a great time. This young man over here, you know, he kind of feels a little bit homesick, I think, and I don't really know if he feels like he knows anybody. Could I get you guys to just, you know, go get to know him a little bit? And boom, right there, they think they're doing you a favor, but they're actually networking as well. They're pulling somebody in so that they feel a little more involved or connected to what's going on. But also then it's not something that they grin and bear, right? They're doing it by their own will. They were asked to do it. And I was able to compliment them about how much fun it looks like they're having and how great they are at engaging what we're doing at hand there. And they walked away with some compliments, some confidence, and they started to work towards all of the youth getting to know each other, sitting at a table, playing a game. All right, create chaos. So I hate to break it to everybody, but progress usually lives on the corner of chaos and excitement, and especially with youth. And this means that flexibility has to be key. You know, virtual meetings like today, are they hassle-free? Oh no, but they are kind of at the corner of chaos and excitement, right? You just have to figure out how to make it happen. You have to be flexible. You have to be willing to navigate through it all, because that is where you see the most growth and you really start to see connections with youth, right? So maintaining a flexible mindset allows us to step away from the institutionalized silos of the real world, and it places all of us in a setting where we can allow for real, you know, complete exploration, creativity, innovation, hugging a chicken because you've never seen a chicken before. You know, we were not supposed to be at the petting zoo at this point on this agenda, but that's where we wound up and we embraced it. And for a lot of the youth, this was their first time ever seeing a live chicken. So you just have to roll with it. The perception of what you think the agenda should look like is oftentimes going to be corrected by how it actually should look if you just allow the youth to express themselves and share with you what it is that they're most interested in. All right, make do, okay? Try not to use fancy tools. Here, I'm talking about how many different plants exist within a square foot out here in a casino parking lot is I think where we're at. And I mean, I could have took a grazing hoop with me. I could have gotten down on my hands and knees and used the Trimble and categorized all of these plants using their Latin names. But the reality is, when I leave with all of those tools, so then would all of that knowledge, because I didn't teach it to them or share it with them at a level where they could use it again. So instead, we used water bottles and purses and umbrellas, and we created what looked to be about a square foot by square foot area. And we talked about the importance of biodiversity, and we estimated percent cover by using our hand as a measurement tool. And we picked up one grass and we called it the green grass, and we called the other one the blue grass, and we called another one the dandelion plant. And what happened then was they realized that the knowledge that I had started from little, right? And you build upon it, and you get a plant book and you start to learn more, and then you find a grazing hoop and you keep moving forward. But if you start with all of these really high level tools, expensive tools, it's going to be hard for them to regress backwards from it in order to get to the level at which they can utilize the theories and the methods that we put into place. All right, so there is diversity in success. We have to recognize that success looks very different in underserved communities. Our primary focus with the Intertribal Ag Council is on leadership development. We wholeheartedly believe that there is a career for everyone in food and agriculture, but we recognize it's not our job to necessarily force these careers onto our youth. What it is our job to do is to highlight the importance of leadership and professional development to our youth. And we recognize that whatever career they move forward in pursuing, they're going to have that connection to the food and agriculture industry, and they're going to have a knowledge about how it influences them and how they can influence it as they carry out their own career. Now, for some communities, high school graduation is the high point of success, right? Like, we have so many communities that have been so disadvantaged and oppressed for so long that achieving that high school diploma is absolutely top notch. And we need to take the time to offer that level of recognition and appreciation for all of the barriers that were overcome by those individuals that reached that level. Some of the youth in these pictures just completed their high school diploma. Some just received their associate's degree, and others completed their four-year degree. So we recognize that diversity and success exists, and we have to take time to celebrate every single piece of success that our underserved communities realize, so that they're interested in pursuing that next level, so they feel like they have the support to pursue that next level. And perhaps most importantly, and that's why I've ended on this tip for the trade, right, is local impact is most important. So the importance of equipping our youth with skills that they can take home and implement in their communities is invaluable. But another factor when it comes to local impact is that it's not going to do a community any good for an outsider to come in and to take credit for a change that has happened or an improvement that has happened, right? If I am to come into another community, one that I'm not familiar with, and I start this program and it's very successful and it's doing good things for the community, in me taking all of that credit, I am doing a large disadvantage to that community, because the local community needs to be able to own that progress and to own that success and to feel that they were a valuable contribution to that success, right? So we're really focused on embracing the local impact, highlighting the youth in our local communities as being the driving force for the impact that we as an organization get to witness and realize. And we're seeing some really, really great things come from that. And one last thing, I guess, collaboration. Without the Intertribal Agriculture Council's leadership's desire to focus and embrace the next generation of Indian agriculture, we wouldn't really have a start for our youth programming. And as we continue to expand that, we need to focus on collaborative partnerships and ways that we can, really cross some of our paths a little bit better as organizations to amplify the reach that we have. Here is my email, so make sure to take it down. I'm sure it'll be on the website later as well. Please reach out to me at any point. As I mentioned earlier, we are getting ready for a transition and bringing in 2 new youth program specialists. But for the interim, I'm happy to carry on conversations with our youth regarding our youth programming and all other programming that the Intertribal Ag Council offers. And we'll make sure to get you connected with local youth within your area that you can connect with to learn more from. With that, do we have time for a couple questions?
We have time for a couple questions, Kelsey.
Okay.
But first of all, let me just say thank you so much for setting the stage. I think you did an awesome job. And let's see, question. Is there any type of compensation for the youth or recognition or awards? How do you incentivize them to continue to participate?
Absolutely. So we work really hard to fundraise with partners through grants to make sure that there's no cost to the youth participating in any of our events. A lot of times our 3 to 5 day regional events, there is several hours of drive time or even airfare involved. And we do all the fundraising to provide them travel scholarships to participate in all of our events, cover all the meals, cover the lodging. We do not want the financial barrier to be what prevents youth from having the appropriate access to youth leadership opportunities. And really, I think that the kind of built-in incentive to our youth programming is that we have youth at the front of the room doing the educating. So that incentive to come back, that draw to come back, is the youth are pursuing that next level of responsibility as a youth leader, as a youth fellow, as an individual that will get to share their experience and really kind of keep the ball rolling.
Super. And it looks like we've got a volunteer for you. Let's see. Stephanie is with Oahu RC&D and is interested in how she might be able to be a mentor.
Awesome.
I'm
Yeah.
guessing she's writing down your email as we speak.
Perfect. I look forward to hearing from you, Stephanie.
So I just want to say, Kelsey is super busy, but she has agreed to be an advisor for our project now for about 3 years or so. And we try not to tap her very often because we know she's busy, but she does an awesome job every time we call on her. So thank you again so much for your time.